Wow, today we have a wonderful opportunity to understand a deep, very instinctive art that I came across a wonderful proponent of on the London Wheel course. I have a bit of history within the forensics of psychological profiling. We did a fair amount of this due to its prevalence in solving some particularly heinous crimes in the 80s. David Cantor's work was my first road into this approach of actually understanding somebody's bare character from their very nature, what they display to the world. But here we have a wonderful linkage between the physical presentation and maybe what lies underneath. And to explain this far better than I can ever do, I would love to introduce Anne Pellegrino. Well, Anne, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Ed. So thank you for that nice introduction. So as Ed introduced, my name is Anne Pellegrino. I'm a palmist and also I look at face reading and face features to understand a person's nature, and also basic psychology, so modern psychology. So blending the three to understand a person's character. Now I've been looking at, so just going into palmistry, I've been doing this for 30 plus years, probably 35 plus years now.
Wow.
I was fortunate enough to learn about Western palmistry as well as Eastern. So I had a guru at the time for probably about five or 6 years from India. And the Indian people have been looking at palmistry for going back probably 3,000 to 4,000 years.
Wow.
And so have the Chinese. Now, I just want to explain to you, many people say, well, how can, the lines on the hand say anything about a person's character? Isn't it just the way we crease our fingers? The lines show up randomly. From my experience over nearly probably 40 years, even, I studied this when I was about 12, 13, found a book at the time. So of a very deep understanding, which takes decades to truly understand the depth of palmistry. So the way it works is that our thoughts are like a signal. It starts along the spine and moves up along the spine, the electrical impulses to our brain, and then through that comes down the arm like electrical impulses that imprint on the hand. So every thought, every action that we take is then imprinted on the hand. Now it's not static. It's movement. It changes over time, and
Really?
so from palmistry, it's not predictive. It's not a form of telling the future, and I don't really believe that. You could probably tell a little bit into the future, but because we have free will, we make choices, the hands and the lines can change, and they can change very rapidly. And I've seen this happen within weeks.
Really? Wow.
So looking at palmistry, there's the looking at a person's basic character by the hands, what's happened in the past, looking at childhood traumas, you can see as well very early on, how the life has progressed at this point in time, but also looking at the physical side. So there's another study of palmistry, which is medical palmistry. So you can tell a lot about a person's health, and and you can tell at what point in time, if they continue, like I said, if they continue down that path.
Oh, really?
What may happen. Now, I'm not saying it's a given, but you can tell a little bit. Say, for example, if you're eating healthy food, I've seen this I did a reading a few weeks back, and there was a lady, she was in her early 50s, and I said, something's happened in your life where you've changed your diet, you've changed the way you look after your body, because you could see very early on that her lifeline, for example, was quite chopped up and not very clear, and then after a certain point, it got really clear and very strong. So the energy and the life force was very strong. And she said, yes,
Wow.
I improved my diet. In her case, she became a vegan. I'm not saying that's where you go, but she made that conscious decision to do that. Now, you know, but she said, I changed my diet, I changed my health, I changed you know, I exercised more, and you can see from that point on how it
Really?
changed.
That's
So
a fascinating world, isn't it?
if you were to say, Ed, eat McDonald's for 6 months, you know,
Yeah.
you would see in the hand how that's affecting your health. So that's a very important tool. And it's also to guide you. So there's that aspect, but it's also to guide you to understand your weaknesses, how you're perhaps making similar mistakes in relationships, for example,
Really?
over and again.
Right. So looking inwards and analysing this. Yeah.
So looking inwards, whether obviously you're born with certain traits, and we all have weaknesses and strengths, but it's identifying those in the hand and working on those strengths and overcoming those weaknesses. So when I look at palmistry, you have a lot of free will, and you have an incredible amount of control over your destiny by the way you think. You've heard of that saying, it says, I think, therefore I am.
Absolutely.
Well, it's really about how our thinking and our attitude can change our life. Now, I'll give you another example. The fate line is a very key line in the hand. It's called the line of Saturn because it comes up underneath this middle finger here.
Oh, right.
It really is about direction in life. Now, when you see someone, you might see in the hand someone's fate line's very strong, then it peters out. Then that person, you can see, might have lost a bit of direction in life, or may not have found a path that sort of grabs them and that they can, you know, be focused on and have passion towards. So you might say to that person, you know, you really need to work on it and find that sort of life path.
And that would change the moment they did develop their life path. Really?
I've seen it change by
Wow.
someone focused and more sort of driven and sort of finds their passion or their purpose in life. So when you look at the fate line, it really is about fate. And then you can see also how it might have a break at a certain time where there might be a faint line. It means that person might be going through a period where they're trying to find their way, but then you can see it sort of continues later on. So, but you can shift things through the thoughts and through action, through concerted action. So that's the way it works. Yeah. So that's what I do. And every time you look at the palm, it's like looking, how I liken it is that you're like a kaleidoscope of different colours, shades, like different, and also depth. Like imagine a big deep pool that's a kaleidoscope. And so when you look into it, you can see different colours of that person and what makes up that person. And so every time you look, you see something different.
Wow,
So
that's amazing.
That's why it's so complex and takes so much time to become a master, you know, to become really good at it. And as I was saying to you, there are different methods of looking at it, whether it's the Eastern Hindu method of palmistry, whether it's the Western method of palmistry. I tend to follow the Western method, which is looking at, which is a more of a sort of a combination of both. They say, you know, the question is, well, which hand do you look at? Right, left or right? The answer is both, because it's about right brain thinking and left brain thinking. So this is what I was saying to you about that. And what I wanted to say is people shouldn't be frightened. Many people say, oh, I don't want you to look at my hand, you might see something bad. It is never fixed in stone, and a good palmist obviously would never it cannot predict. You know, the joke is, you know, do you want to make, what's the way to make God laugh is, you know, tell him your future. So you can't.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
And I think people shouldn't be frightened of it, but take the good bits of it, understand your character, understand yourself. For example, like I mentioned, people might be in relationships, might be having problems, and
Yes.
you might be asking yourself, it might be in a personal relationship, it might be in a relationship with your boss, it might be in a relationship with your parent or sibling, and you often ask yourself, well, is it me or is it them? You know, so what am I doing wrong? How is that relationship, if it's an intimate relationship, impacting me? Is it negative?
Yes.
Is it? So people need to understand that, so you can get a better feel for how that relationship is impacting you for good or for not good, whether it's something that you need to change or whether it's something that's not really your problem and it's I don't like to say that, but maybe it's them, and you need to then take action to change that. So that's why it's a very powerful tool.
It is a really amazing tool. I've just to maybe just put in there, one of the reasons why I knew that I must reach out to you is because within the clinic setting at home, I've found there's a subdivision of individuals who don't subscribe to the Eastern philosophies, and that's absolutely fine. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter how we describe things, but they are completely switched off to it. It is dead to them if you discuss things in those terms. And the only tool that has really broken this down is when you show something in the physical world that relates to them in a way that maybe they didn't understand its linkage before. And they look at this as a very real relationship on their life, and it changes in the treatment. And I'm referring here to the ear acupuncture, the auricular acupuncture, which is, in my world, quite similar to the palmistry, I think, in your world. It's a good representation of where people are up to at the moment. You can go really, really deep with it, but it's got some really great handles by which you can measure their treatment for back pain, let's say, in my world. And it's so easy. It's almost embarrassing from my perspective, because you can show people and they all immediately go, oh yeah, well that really relates to me. So immediately the barriers are gone and they get better. That's my experience with this, which is why I really wanted to get your experienced perspective on this. Because people who dismiss things, no pun intended, out of hand, they really maybe are limiting their ability to relate to other people. They miss the evidence. I'm a huge fan of Sherlock Holmes. I grew up on the Sherlock Holmes books and Arthur Conan Doyle and all that, works in the forensics, my original chosen journey path in life. And I love all that aspect of extrapolation of physical details and the forensic analysis, which is what you do as a job. So I'm a bit jealous, really. I think you've got an amazing job, and I would love to be able to use that more. So it's really interesting how you link all this together to the here and now. And if you didn't make a change in your life, how this would extrapolate outwards in your life, and then create huge issues.
So it's the here and now, but when I say to you, you can't predict with 100% certainty, you can't, but you can see what trajectory people
Absolutely.
are on. And you can say, if you continue, this is what the likely outcome may be, for good or for not so good.
Yes.
But that isn't that a good thing to know?
Absolutely.
Well, okay, this is what I need to do. These are the things I need to do to change, or to improve on, or to strengthen, to do better in life, or to change things for the better. And that's why it's such a powerful tool. Yes. Anyone can learn, about the palm lines and be sort of have a basic understanding. But like I said about that kaleidoscope, going back to that, it is so deep and so vast, and that takes decades to understand.
Really? Wow.
Your knowledge is always being added onto. It's like playing a piano, and being a master at playing the piano. It takes years and years of practice. So that's where this tool is very useful, yeah, for people. And not to sort of, once they see it, and I'll do a reading, and I know nothing about that person.
Really? Wow.
People
Beforehand.
go, oh,
Yes.
I'll give you
Yes.
I'll give you an example.
Right.
I have a girlfriend of mine. She has 3 children. I did a palm reading. Her name's Juliet. I did a palm reading. I said, Juliet, did you have a 4th pregnancy?
Really?
And she said, yes, but I haven't told anyone. I lost that baby.
Wow.
So what I'm saying is that the part, so you can say, and when you say things and you know nothing about that person, and it's probably about 80 to 85% accurate, not always accurate.
Oh, sure.
Then,
But
then
a good
people are,
measure. Yeah.
then people are really astounded. And you can also tell timing on the lines as well, pretty accurately, between up and 2 or minus plus or minus 2 years is usually
Really?
the accuracy
Wow.
that you can tell. So time and time again, I've read palms, and people have been just astounded.
It's amazing.
You need to be very careful. Like if there's you really are looking into someone's, I suppose, soul in some way, and there are secrets there. They don't go any further than me, things that
Absolutely.
and sometimes, you have to be careful as a palmist not to say things that, that are not going to be helpful for that person. So.
Yeah, and that's your clinical responsibility, and I understand that personally, and that is really important that people understand that your guidance is always altruistic. It is not sort of a possession of knowledge that you would internalize. It is genuinely, you use it to build a character of the individual. And when people come in, they sit in the clinic at my end, and you talk to them, and although I don't do the palmistry personally, like the acupuncture, the demeanor of their body, their expressions, you can see between the lines as far as that's concerned. I would argue similarly, to a very high degree of significance, and this then allows you to treat the core issue. So somebody comes in with back pain, from my perspective, I'm focusing on back pain because everyone understands this, but they come in with back pain, and like you say, they are under the thumb of a really particularly pernicious manager at work. They live in fear. Immediately, that's going to be obvious during the interview. But the fact that I'm fascinated from your perspective is that you're perhaps not starting with that. I'm not having the easy job. My job's easy in comparison because people are telling me, perhaps not all the details, and you gently filter this out and get to the core of the issue. But you're starting, so if I was to come to see you in the clinic, would I tell you my backstory first, or would you have a look and then maybe extrapolate and then just start the conversation from there? Well, how would it work?
You don't need to tell me really anything. I'm only really now talking about palmistry, but I'd look at the face. I do face reading for many years, and you can tell a lot about a person's physical health or emotional health just by looking at the face. It reveals a lot. And also, when you're looking at the face, it may be that person might be having emotional upsets. You can see it, and it's only passing. A bit like palmistry, it's passing. Lines appear, they disappear. You might be going through a hard period of time, you can see it, but then it disappears. So you might have something that might be there protecting you, and you can see it and then it disappears. So it's very important to, like I said, the here and now and just the short foreseeable trajectory that you might be on if you don't,
Yes.
if depending, and it might be a good one, you know, you might be doing well in life and it's great, keep doing what you're doing.
So a positive affirmation then.
Positive, it's positive.
Yes. Yeah, that's
So
fascinating.
when I do it, so I look at the hand, I ask you to take a very clear picture with a high resolution picture. When you take the palm, you hold it upright and bend your fingers back a bit. I need the full palm.
Okay.
Full palm with slightly bent back fingers, like, because I need to see the palm to measure the timing, as well as, so left and right, as well as the side part, because here there's a bit that you can see, particularly
Yes.
on relationships, on this part of
Oh,
the arm.
right. Okay, the heart. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's not about the lines, like I said. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about palms, about another aspect. It's also the fingers, the joints,
Okay.
the colour. For example, you might see in someone's palm, and it's not cultural, like it can be with anyone from any cultural background. It's including face reading. So for example, you might see someone's hand might be quite red.
Okay.
And it's coming through the skin regardless of the colour. And that shows someone who might have some anger issues that need to be looked at.
Right.
Now, what I want to talk to you about palmistry, about the control over your destiny, as you know, sometimes this sort of went when I was looking at it and thinking, well, okay, what if there's some things you can't control, right?
Okay.
Things that happen to you externally that you've got very little control over. Now, what I call these are dates with destiny, right?
Okay,
Everybody has, they're signposts. This is my belief in your life that you're following, and you just need to follow them. But then you have these, what they call dates with destiny. And for example, for my case, I, had a choice to marry and married and had kids, but I could have made a different choice. I could have said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm going to immigrate overseas, right? But I chose, so I had, maybe two choices to make, and that's at the crossroad of where you have that date and destiny, but you still have free will to make that choice. Okay. So had I gone down a different path, I would have had a different destiny. But I made that one, and that was mine. So that's what I'm saying about those key dates. But depending on every choice that we're making now, we're taking the here and now and we're creating our future. So wow. That's what I meant by those dates. And definitely, they're like little challenges that you come across, and you don't see them as negative, but then through palmistry, you can get guidance to make the right choices.
That's a really amazing aspect, isn't it? That control back of your destiny. That's a really powerful message to get that. That security back to people's lives, because we live in a world where perhaps there is too much destiny and control seemingly ebbing away. And I think we've spoken widely about what's going on, and I think it's amazing how many things we agree with, and yet we're separated by, we're on two ends of the earth. You're in Australia, I'm in the United Kingdom, and you can control your destiny through knowledge of where you've been, knowledge of where you are, and then through your guidance, and then an accurate view of maybe what your options are. And I think that's a really powerful message. Does it sound ethereal, and does it sound maybe far out there? Maybe, but I disagree. I think it's a really forward thinking, scientific, deductive. I mean, it is the very nature of deductive science, in my humble opinion, when you employ these rules accurately by a professional like yourself who really knows. You've got a series of ebooks out about palmistry, or you're writing a few. Would you like to tell people how they can engage with you further? Because people need to find out about this. I'm adamant.
Yeah. So what I do is I ask for, like I said, a picture of both palms. You know, I can give, I have a website, and you can then click on that website to undertake a palm reading. And
Wow.
also, I think I did talk about the face and, you know, psychology, and it's all sort of mixed in with one, but my expertise, really the depth is in that aspect. But in the first instance, what I would do is ask for some photos and then some clear pictures. And through that, I would provide some guidance and also a report. So I provide a report. And in that report, it's like a life reading, really. And it's saying where you are now, what sort of, and it looks at medical part, you know, the medical side, as well as the emotional and mental and physical, you know, the physical, as I said, the side of that as well. So it's all aspects. Like, for example, when I had my hand read by someone in India, they looked at a bubble on my heart line. Now, I don't know why it's there, but it is, when I talk, there's certain areas, but if there's like an island, it shows that you've got a weakness in your eyes.
Okay, fascinating.
And it was only on one hand, so it was on the right hand, which means the left hand, the weakness. And did you know, when I did my eye test, I have a weakness in that eye.
On your left-hand side, really?
Yeah, on the left-hand side. So one
Yes.
eye's pretty normal, but the other one's quite weak. So really, so what I would do then is give you a report. It's quite a comprehensive report. If I don't get a clear picture, I'll come back to you. And you don't have to tell me anything. I can look at it.
I love that. I think that's an amazing deduction.
Also, you know, I can look at face reading as well. If people want to have a look at that, obviously I have to have a picture of the face. But also, you know, you might be someone out there having problems. One of my specialties, looking at a relationship that might be causing you some grief. You know that relationships are dynamic. It's an interplay of two people. And sometimes that person's not really good for you or causing. Yes. If you've been in that relationship for some time and it's causing a lot of problems, I can see through your palm how that's affecting you. And then I can see, you know, if you're sneaky enough, you can get a picture if your partner or whoever might want to show. I can see what's going on. You can tell mental illness in a person, you know, that or mental anguish. You can tell someone who might, like I said, who has anger issues. You can tell someone, look at me, I've got a lower set pinky finger. I might come across as being quite confident, but I'm actually an introvert and very shy.
Really?
And talking is quite difficult in front of crowds. So I just, you know, up.
Yes.
So, like I said, these are weaknesses, but I've learned to overcome those by working on other parts of myself that are my strengths. So I look at all of that, and then I arm you with really what I call shortcuts in life. You can learn through this, and then you can apply it through all relationships that you might be having also. You don't want to be sort of continuously looking at your hand and looking at every little change you might be
every day.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly get a fairly accurate picture of what's going on.
I think it's really amazing that you're offering the service. I think it should be offered far more widely than it's currently available, in my humble opinion. And I think through the knowledge, you can then treat. People have this idea that it's set in stone. So I would love to maybe meet up with you again in the next couple of weeks, and we'll expand upon this with any questions that we get. Is there any final few points that I've not um, opened up on well that you would like to get out to the audience?
No, I think we've covered it, Ed. I think
Yes.
people need to be open to it. You know, it. How can I convince people to say it really is a powerful tool and it is really accurate? And I think that comes
by
from
seeing it themselves.
35 plus years experience. It's not just a random. That's why, you know, ancient cultures, ancient China, ancient India, the ancient Egyptians, the gypsies, you know, obviously were really into it. Thousands of years, and it's
Yes,
not
it is
something that that's just sort of arisen from just random
yeah.
observation. So
I agree. I just really say to all my patients when they come in, a lot of people understand the idea of natural selection and the idea that good ideas are able to survive to the next generation. This is one of those key examples of how perhaps its capability is measured in its survival through the ages to a very, very high degree. And I think if it's good and if it works, it will be passed on. And, you know, thank you for sharing the knowledge with that today. I can't wait till our next discussion. I think it's going to be really revelatory. So thank you very much.
all right, thank you, Ed. And I'll be able to give the website address. And I think if people are interested, they just go there and they can find out more.
Yeah, I'll pop it in the discussion below, and you know, people, please go and have a look, and at least send your pictures, because you've got to find out. I'm dying to find out myself now. You know, warts and all. Let's see what happens. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time late at your end. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.